Hey, what's up guys, James Martin here. Listen, if you've been around this channel for a while, you know that recently I've been talking so much about anime, but seriously, there is some fantastic shows where if you're really trying to be a good filmmaker, writer, whichever in the movie or show industry you're trying to strive for, this is something you really should be paying attention to. I know that a lot of the times, especially if you're on the Western side of the world, we want to pay attention more towards, well, Western movies. If you really want to see some really interesting concepts and stories, these are the shows you need to check out. So right now I'm going to list my top 5 favorite anime shows that filmmakers really should be paying attention to. So the first one is perhaps one of my favorite shows of all time. It's called Puella Magi, which essentially is the Latin form of magical girls, Madoka. So Madoka, as I said, is a magical girl. If you don't know what magical girls are, well, it's kind of straightforward. They're girls with magical powers. They're usually teen or preteen girls. This is a popular subplot in anime in general. There's the magical girls genre. So if you heard of, say, Sailor Moon, that's a magical girl, for instance. The reason why I love this show so much, it might sound kind of cute, maybe not so much your type, but trust me, it is super dark. It's a fantasy. It's got really dark tones. It's depressing as heck, like super depressing, but that's the point, because the point of the story is to talk about hope and despair, and it draws a really great comparison between the two, and that you mustn't give up hope no matter how hopeless and dark things get. But it has this really eerie sort of psychological side to this, because it really just messes with your concept of reality. There's a lot of magic, there's a lot of really weird stuff that happens in this. And speaking of weird, one of the main sort of bad guys per se is these things called witches. So they go around, they spread curses, they do evil things. And the way that the witches are portrayed, I believe it's based on an old German type of art, something very abstract and just weird. You look at it, it's strange, it's weird, and there's something kind of uncomfortable about it without it being too uncomfortable that you don't want to watch it. There's something kind of beautiful and eerie about it at the same time. And also the music is just amazing. It's really creepy but beautiful at the same time. You can't turn away from it. It's something that you listen to, and especially you know the context of the show, it makes you really sad. But yeah, I mean, it's a very solid show. There's only 12 episodes. It's going to take you about less than 6 hours to binge anyways. Give Puella Magi a try. Next on my list is a show called Violet Evergarden. Violet Evergarden is a masterpiece when it comes to making you ugly cry. It's one of these really beautiful stories where there isn't necessarily a main villain. It's just, it brings you tears of happiness. Violet Evergarden is a child who grew up basically as a war machine, and through the help of a very close friend of hers, she tries to learn the meaning of love, because as far as she's concerned, she just grew up as an emotionless fighting war machine. And now it's after the war, she's put back into the world, and she wants to learn the meaning of love, of romantic love. So she gets a job where she basically writes letters on behalf of other people. And so she gets introduced to these different types of people, these different stories, and just has a better understanding of love from all these different perspectives. It's really emotional. I cried at almost every other episode. Just absolutely beautiful. The animation is absolutely top notch, and trust me, that's not something you're going to see often, because there are going to be some shows with a huge budget where the animation is just fantastic, and there's others where it's kind of par-ish, but this one really good. It's a very beautiful story. So if you're looking to write a story that's just happy and not dark compared to, say, Puella Magi, this is definitely a great show to go. Alright, this is another show that you've heard me mention several times. It's called Attack on Titan. Now, this show is a really long show. Like, there's currently, I think, just less than 90 episodes, but there's also the final part of a season coming out, so it'll probably be just less than 100 episodes once the entire thing comes out. But this has been an experience. First off, the animation is really good. It's a very dark story, but it's one of those larger than life kind of things. Like, it's going to feel very epic. And I know there's a lot of shows and movies that want to describe themselves as being epic. This one is really epic. It's monster versus man, and it's just everyone getting pushed to their limit and trying to figure stuff out mentally, emotionally, and physically. The voice acting in this is also superb. That's something you need to pay attention to. It's great in both the English and the Japanese, whichever you prefer to listen to. Music is just incredible. It will give you goosebumps. It doesn't matter which season you're watching. The music has been very, very well done. One of the things that really stood out to me about the story is the sort of reverse expectations, and you think that the story is going one way and then it quickly switches and goes another way, and then it quickly switches again and goes somewhere else. And so just when you think you have a grasp in the story, they introduce a new element into the plot and you're just like, whoa, okay, so now what's going on? And it's done in a way where it doesn't feel too confusing. Like if I were to compare it to, say, the Marvel Universe just gets more confusing every time I watch a movie. It doesn't make sense, it just keeps getting more confusing. This one actually makes a lot more sense the more you watch it. And yes, there's some new stuff, but then it kind of explains most of it. Not all, but most. One of the things that really stood out to me is it showed me that every character can have a journey. And I say that because most shows and movies is mainly the main characters that have some sort of journey. The side characters don't really do much of anything. All the characters are focused on, and they have their own little journey within the overall journey. So it doesn't matter who you're following and which character you like, everyone has some sort of problem that they're trying to resolve. And everyone has this huge problem in the bigger story that they're trying to resolve. It's a humongous commitment if you're going to watch and sit 100 episodes, of course, but I really do encourage you to take a chance and give it a try. You're not going to regret it. Alright, next on my list is a show called Angel Beats. Now, this was a show that I didn't really have any expectations when I first checked it out, but it actually blew me away. So again, this is another short show with about 12 episodes. I've listened to it in both Japanese and English. Both of them are really, really well done. The animation is really, really good. Designs are really, really good. What surprised me about the show was how humorous and sad the show was at the same time. Basically, the concept of the show is that there are a bunch of these teenage kids that they wanted to strive for a big purpose in life, but then they died early, like they died when they were teens. And so instead of moving on, they go to this high school that's sort of like the middle ground, where they're there along with other teenagers that died early and couldn't fulfill their wishes. And at this high school, there's a bunch of other people who are basically described as NPCs, where they go in, they don't really do much of anything. They go, do school, participate in activities, leave. And these kids are kind of trapped in this high school and they're unable to move on. And so basically they just find their own way of living with all the other kids, all the other students, and figure out why they're stuck there and what they need in order to move on, what's going to give them fulfillment. That's the key message about the story. It's absolutely beautiful. You will be in tears by the very end of the show. The music is very, very beautiful, very, very well done. It's just a really interesting concept of a story, so go check it out. Alright, the final one on my list is a show called My Hero Academia. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of anime watchers that are probably rolling their eyes because this is a really, really super popular show, but it's popular for a reason, and let me tell you why. So we're in an age right now where superheroes are the thing, right? We all know about superheroes like the Avengers, like DC, like Marvel, like X-Men. What My Hero Academia does for me is this is what a proper superhero show should be. And I'll explain why. So first off, the action and music is super great. Not only is the music great, like there's some great energy moments. It's those moments where the scene gets very intense and then the music gets intense. But it also has a lot of music which feels more like the Rocky theme, where it's like encouraging you to get back up and keep fighting kind of thing. But what also stood out to me is in this universe, there's different people who are born with different powers, and that power evolves over time. And it's about how everyone figures out their powers, what their limits are, what they can do. And there are those that want to become heroes, like as a job. Basically, they just work alongside local authorities and beat bad guys, essentially. And it's the way that these different powers can combine and work with each other. There's also a way where they figure out sort of like what the different tasks are, because one of the things that we're kind of used to in the Western world is that you're kind of a one-man army. If Iron Man shows up, if Superman shows up, they're the ones that are just going to clean up the entire mess and deal with everything. But what this show strives to emphasize is, no, you need a team. You need backup. You need someone who's going to not only fight the bad guys, but someone who's going to take care of a fallen structure, or someone's going to take care of the fire, or get pedestrians out of the way, or provide medical service for someone who's injured. Like, there's tons of different things on the job that need to be dealt with. But also working alongside local authorities and why that's important is something that this does that no other superhero shows or movies really do. Because believe it or not, the local authorities are there for a reason. The police, the firemen, the doctors, they're there for a reason. And working alongside them and figuring out how to work together as a team is super important. I find this show more realistic than, say, the Avengers, because it shows that being reckless can cause consequences, hard work equals success, and to know how and why to work with the local authorities. Once again, this is a very long show. Like, currently we're in 5 seasons and there's like 3 different movies. The movies are just kind of side plots. They don't really push the story forward too much. But if you want to go check those out, by all means do so. But the show itself is a big commitment. I do like the dub and the Japanese voice acting. Both are really, really good. So if you want to check that out, by all means. And just, yeah, an overall just really, really fun show. So go and check that out. Alright, so those are the top 5 that I would highly recommend. I do want to leave just a few other titles along. These titles, they're just really, really good stories. I've enjoyed them. They're just a lot of fun. So if you're looking for a good anime to sink your teeth into that do have really good, solid stories, by all means, go check these out. My Dress Up Darling, Science Fell in Love, So I Tried to Prove It, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, Kaguya-sama, Love is War, Tonikawa, Over the Moon for You, Hijihiro, After Being Rejected, I Shaved and Took in a High School Runaway, and Michuko Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation. Alright, so I hope that helped you out, guys. If it did, please smash that like button and subscribe because I have content coming out. Let me know down in the comments. I want to hear 3 different anime titles. 1, what was the first one that you saw that got you introduced to anime? 2, what's your favorite one? And 3, which anime show do you think filmmakers should watch? Alright, I'm very curious what the results will come up with because I know that the answers that you mentioned will help other filmmakers and writers as well. So good luck, enjoy yourselves, and I will see you next time.